Inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services rise over time. When the price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. This leads to a decrease in purchasing power per unit of money. Inflation is a natural part of a healthy economy. However, rapid or unexpected inflation can be disruptive. Inflation can be caused by a variety of factors. One factor is increased demand. When consumers have more money, they demand more goods and services. This can lead to businesses raising prices. Another factor is increased production costs. If the cost of raw materials, labor, or transportation rises, businesses may pass those costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Inflation can have a significant impact on the economy. For example, it can erode the value of savings. When inflation is high, the money people have saved will buy less in the future. Inflation can also lead to uncertainty and reduced investment. Businesses may be hesitant to invest if they are uncertain about future prices. Overall, inflation is a complex economic phenomenon with both positive and negative impacts. Understanding inflation is essential for making informed economic decisions. Most governments and central banks aim for a low and stable rate of inflation, typically around 2%. This target is not arbitrary. It reflects a balance between the risks of high inflation and the risks of deflation, a period of falling prices. Why 2%? Firstly, a small amount of inflation encourages spending. Consumers are more likely to make purchases sooner rather than later if they expect prices to rise. This increased demand helps drive economic growth. Secondly, a 2% target provides a buffer against deflation. Deflation can be harmful to the economy, leading to a downward spiral of falling prices, reduced spending, and economic stagnation. Maintaining this target requires careful monitoring and management of the money supply and interest rates. Central banks use monetary policy tools to influence these factors and keep inflation in check. Achieving and maintaining this target is crucial for sustainable economic growth. High inflation, a rapid increase in the general price level, can have a significant impact on individuals, businesses, and the overall economy. For individuals, high inflation erodes the purchasing power of their income and savings. As prices rise, the same amount of money buys fewer goods and services, reducing consumers' purchasing power. This can lead to a decline in living standards, especially for those on fixed incomes or with limited savings. Businesses also face challenges in a high inflation environment. Rising input costs, such as raw materials and labor, can squeeze profit margins. Businesses may struggle to pass on these increased costs to consumers, especially if demand is weak. This can lead to reduced investment, slower economic growth, and job losses. High inflation can also create uncertainty and instability in the economy. It becomes difficult for businesses to plan for the future when prices are volatile. This uncertainty can lead to a decline in investment and economic activity. Governments often respond to high inflation with contractionary monetary policies, such as raising interest rates to curb demand and control inflation. However, these measures can also slow economic growth and potentially lead to recession. Section 4. The virtuous and vicious cycles of inflation. Moderate inflation, particularly when predictable and stable, can contribute to a virtuous cycle in the economy. This cycle starts with the expectation of rising prices. Consumers, anticipating higher prices in the future, are more likely to make purchases in the present. This increased consumer spending fuels demand for goods and services. To meet this heightened demand, businesses increase production and hire more workers. Increased employment leads to higher incomes and further boosts consumer spending, perpetuating the cycle. This virtuous cycle contributes to economic growth, job creation, and overall prosperity. However, disruptions like supply chain bottlenecks or sudden increases in demand can lead to a vicious cycle of inflation. In this scenario, limited supply struggles to keep up with surging demand, driving prices up sharply. Businesses facing rising input costs and eager to capitalize on the situation raise prices further, fueling inflation. Consumers, worried about further price hikes, increase their spending, exacerbating the problem. This vicious cycle can lead to a wage price spiral, where wages and prices chase each other upwards, further fueling inflation. Section 5. Taming inflation, government strategies. Governments and central banks employ various strategies to manage inflation and keep it within a target range. One of the primary tools used is monetary policy. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the United States, can influence interest rates to control the money supply. Raising interest rates makes borrowing more expensive, which can slow down economic activity and reduce inflationary pressures. Another approach is fiscal policy, which involves adjustments to government spending and taxation. By increasing taxes or reducing government spending, the government can reduce the amount of money circulating in the economy, which can help curb inflation. However, these measures can also impact economic growth and employment. In addition to monetary and fiscal policies, governments may implement price controls as a temporary measure to combat inflation. Price controls involve setting limits on the prices of certain goods or services. While price controls can provide short-term relief, they can also lead to shortages and distortions in the market. Section 6, the deflationary spiral and its challenges. While high inflation poses significant challenges, deflation, a sustained decrease in the general price level, can be equally detrimental to the economy. Deflation can lead to a vicious cycle known as the deflationary spiral. As prices fall, consumers and businesses may postpone purchases in anticipation of further price declines. This decline in spending reduces demand, leading to lower production, job losses, and further deflationary pressure. Japan's experience with deflation, known as Japan's lost decade in the 1990s, provides a stark example of the challenges in combating deflation. Despite various policy measures, Japan struggled to escape deflation for an extended period. Breaking out of a deflationary spiral can be extremely difficult, often requiring unconventional monetary policies and significant government intervention. While maintaining price stability is crucial, aiming for absolute zero inflation is neither realistic nor desirable. A small amount of inflation, around the 2% target, is considered healthy for a functioning economy. It encourages spending, provides a buffer against deflation, and allows for adjustments in relative prices. The complexities of the macroeconomic environment make it essential to strike a balance between controlling inflation and promoting economic growth.